The day I knew I was going to war. It wasn't when I got the papers, it was when the sun hit the vanity plate of a brand new silver Lexus creeping up my gravel path. WA QN1. That's all you need to know. Right? That little license plate, reflecting the early morning haze over the fields behind my barn, felt like a spotlight hitting me right in the chest. I was standing there on my porch, nursing a cup of black coffee that had already gone cold. The kind of stillness you only get on honest land. When she stopped. Alara Thorne, the self-appointed queen of Sycamore Creek Estates. Our neighborhood's resident, Karen, but with real power. You know? Platinum blonde bob, so angular it looked genetically engineered. A red blouse pressed so sharp it could cut paper. And the clipboard, always the clipboard, held like a ceremonial sword. She marched toward me, her heels sinking slightly into the soft soil of my yard. The indignity of it all. With the urgency of a woman who genuinely believes her minor task is the most important thing happening on planet Earth. Mr. Vance, she barked, not asked. Yes, ma'am, I replied, setting the coffee down, already mentally listing the relevant zoning codes. I'm Jonas Vance, by the way. Retired Army Corps of Engineers. I deal in concrete and logistics. Not passive aggression, which I guess put me at a disadvantage right from the start. She didn't even acknowledge me. Her eyes skipped right over my shoulder. Locking onto the target. That tractor, she snapped. It's in clear violation of WA aesthetic standards. I want it gone. I didn't have to turn around. I knew the exact shade of faded crimson she was complaining about. Old Bess. My father's 1972 Farmall 856. Dusty. Sun faded. Yeah, but running smoother than most cars on her street. I'd rebuilt that engine with my own hands after retiring. It wasn't parked on the front lawn, either. It sat in the side yard, well behind the privacy fence. Only visible if you specifically drove around looking for violations. Which, obviously, she had. I took a deep breath. The air thick with the smell of dew and impending legal conflict. That tractor's on my acreage. Ma'am, not WA-managed land. That patch was specifically exempted under the annexation clause from 2004. Alara just rolled her eyes, a dramatic, slow roll that said she wasn't impressed by my photographic memory of local zoning history. The covenant, Mr. Vance, states that all visible exterior structures and equipment must adhere to the neighborhood aesthetic. That tractor is visible. It is industrial in nature. And it degrades the visual appeal of the community. I stared at her for a moment, letting the silence stretch. It's a tractor. Alara, this land was a working farm before Sycamore Creek Estates ever existed. Before you and your wine and cheese circle decided you needed a WA. She gave me that tight-lipped smile. The kind that never touches the eyes. All venom and porcelain. That may be true, Mr. Vance, but times change. Sycamore Creek is an upscale development now. And we all have to make sacrifices to maintain property values. The irony almost made me laugh, or cry. I was one of the local contractors who actually built half of this subdivision. I knew which pipes were corroding under which perfect driveways. I knew exactly how much of my father's farm had been swallowed into the HOA's greedy little claws. You're welcome to send me a formal letter, I said, my throat tight. I'll let my attorney review it. Until then, old Bess stays. She didn't like the word, attorney. Her lips thinned even further. And she made a furious, passive-aggressive scribble on her clipboard. We'll be in touch, she chirped, already turning toward the Lexus. Consider this your verbal notice. You have 72 hours to remove the tractor or face consequences. 3 days. 3 days to erase the last working memory of my father from this land. Also, her friends wouldn't have to glance at a piece of honest machinery through their tinted SUV windows. She sped off, tires kicking up a puff of dust that felt personal. I stood in the rising heat, listening to the familiar clink of the windmill behind the barn and the quiet hum of the bees. My son, Caleb, was still asleep in the loft, exhausted after working past midnight on a complex welding project. He's good with his hands. Like I am, maybe better. He and I rebuilt old Bess together over the course of a year after his mother passed. It had been therapy, a project to anchor us when cancer took everything soft and good from our lives. That machine wasn't just metal, it was memory, connection, and something tangible to hold on to. I looked at the dusty tarp covering the tractor. I felt the familiar pang in my gut, part rage, part profound sadness. They were using those same damn bylaws. The ones that annexed my land years ago when I was too busy raising a kid and paying funeral bills to fight them properly. To carve up what little piece of history we had left. Fine, Alara, I thought, walking toward the barn, the smell of grease and hay pulling me in. You want to draw a line? We'll draw one. 2 days later, the line was crossed. We'd gone into town. Caleb wanted to drive, practicing supply logistics for his metalworking business. We were gone barely 2 hours. When we rolled back onto the gravel path, the first thing I noticed was the scuff marks, deep, muddy tire ruts gouged across the side yard, leading away from where old Bess had sat. My chest seized up. I threw open the truck door before we even stopped. The tarp was gone. The cinder blocks were toppled. Old Bess had vanished. Dad, Caleb shouted, hurrying up beside me, his phone already out. They took it. He was staring at the barn's side wall where we'd installed a wide-angle security camera. He tapped the screen, zoomed in. There it was, time-stamped, clear as day. 2 men in a white, unmarked tow truck. No decals, no warning, no paperwork. One man wrestled the tarp off the tractor. The other backed the truck in. And there, standing off to the side in her red blazer, arms folded, nodding approvingly, Alara Thorne. She wasn't even hiding the malice. She'd orchestrated the whole theft. They didn't post any notices. I growled, flipping through the old metal binder of HOA correspondence. No certified letters, no fines, nothing. They just stole it. Caleb was focused on the video, zooming in on the tow truck's license plate. Got the plate, he muttered. I'll run it. Want me to call the cops? Or the city? I paused. A cold certainty settled over me. No, I said, slamming the binder shut. This isn't just a police matter. She's baited us. She wants a fight we can't win on her turf, the bureaucracy. She's likely filed some junk paperwork claiming the tractor was unregistered equipment. Caleb nodded, but I could see the familiar, controlled fury burning in his eyes, the same fire I felt when the VA lost my disability paperwork and left us hanging after deployment. Then we don't fight her, he said slowly, looking out at the barren side yard. We outsmart her. What are you thinking, son? He smiled, that quick, sideways smirk he got from his mother, and looked toward the Lexus SUV Alara always parked near the clubhouse. She drove past us often enough. Think I could make a tractor out of that? He asked. Half joking, half dead serious. I blinked. You're not serious. He looked me dead in the eye. I'm completely serious. Dad, she said a tractor was a violation. But if her car ends up looking like a tractor, and it ends up parked on my land, she can't really complain now. Can she? I should have said no. I should have reminded him about escalating things. But then I remembered Alara's smug face. Her words. We all have to make sacrifices to maintain property values. Don't do anything illegal, I said carefully. Wouldn't dream of it, he replied, just thinking. He was already walking toward the barn, opening cabinets, pulling out blueprints. I followed him, half in disbelief, half in profound, settling awe, because somewhere deep down, I knew Alara had awakened something far more dangerous than she realized. Not just an old army engineer. But the war had gone public. And we knew Alara wouldn't just fold, not the queen of Sycamore Creek. She was scheming, but the silence she left behind? That wasn't empty. It was pressure building. And into that vacuum, our voices finally started to fill the air. That afternoon, we sent out an email to every homeowner in the Sycamore Creek Estates directory, the list Alara had accidentally leaked during a failed vote last year. The message was short, respectful, and contained the pictures, the Alara Compliance Unit, the story of old Bess's illegal seizure, the property line maps, and one simple question: if they can take my tractor without notice, what can they take from you? The dam broke. Within hours, we had dozens of replies. Neighbors we hadn't heard from in years, folks who always kept their heads down, started sharing their stories. Mr. Hanley brought over a box of donuts and told us how Alara fined him $500 for the wrong shade of mulch. Teresa from Sycamore Court brought a folder of pictures of Alara's own trampoline. Years ago, which was supposedly against the rules. That night, Caleb set up a private, secure neighborhood forum online. Sycamore Creek Open Forum. Residents. Not rules. The posts flooded in, stories of petty citations for bird feeders. Mailboxes. Unapproved rose trellis heights. Alara had ruled with an iron pen. And now, everyone was ready to speak. The petition started circulating, calling for an emergency vote to dissolve the current HOA board. Caleb printed a banner and hung it across the barn doors. If they can steal a tractor, what else can they take? We didn't need to canvass. By the end of the second week, the petition had 62 signatures. Well over the 60% needed to legally disband the board. Alara finally cracked on the 14th day. She emerged like a storm cloud, marching door to door, ranting about a criminal uprising and a violent intimidation campaign. One woman recorded her and posted it on the forum, Alara screaming about civil disobedience wrapped in diesel and lies. The video went viral locally. People started laughing, and then they started questioning. And once they questioned her authority, the facade crumbled. Then came the final straw, the one that burned the whole bridge down. A neighbor named David, who worked for the city inspector's office, uncovered something damning. Alara filed permits for the new HOA gazebo last year, claiming 3 vendor bids, but David found that all 3 companies were owned by her cousin in Nevada. She had pocketed $62 of HOA funds. We sent the documents to every resident, and then we sent them to the city. That was the end of the game. 2 days later, she received a certified letter from the city of Chestnut Hill ordering a formal audit of HOA spending, plus a temporary suspension of all board activities. The celebration felt surreal, like the 4th of July mixed with collective therapy. But Caleb and I stayed quiet. We weren't doing this to gloat. We were doing this to remind people that no one, not even a petty queen with a clipboard, gets to rewrite the rules of a community without resistance. Just when we thought the smoke had cleared, Alara tried one last desperate move. She contacted the county assessor's office, filing a false report claiming we'd constructed a non-permitted structure that extended into a shared green belt. That triggered a full property line investigation. The county sent a surveyor. I offered him iced tea. He spent 3 hours walking our lot line with laser precision. At the end, he handed me his findings. Your property, he said, every inch. HOA boundaries stop exactly 10 feet short of the tractor's front bumper. Caleb posted the survey map to the online forum with one caption. Karen tried to redraw the map. We just redrew the truth. That same afternoon, Alara received a letter from the city, Notice of Ethics Violation Inquiry. Misuse of influence in zoning and property records filing false claims, attempting to interfere with legal permits. It was all flagged as suspicious and retaliatory. Within 48 hours, she was permanently suspended from all HOA activity. Her name was scrubbed. Neighbors began walking their dogs past our property, waving, nodding with the kind of respect that doesn't need words. Even the old couple across the cul-de-sac, who had always been silent, sent over a fresh peach pie with a note, about damn time. The city hearing was scheduled for a Thursday evening. The community center parking lot was full 30 minutes before the doors even opened. Caleb and I stood outside, watching neighbors gather with their manila folders of evidence, receipts, old citations, Alara's threatening emails. Inside the city council chambers, they were packed to the walls. When my name was called, I stepped to the microphone. I looked out over the crowd, more than 70 neighbors, parents, retirees, families. My name is Jonas Vance. I began, my voice clear. I've lived on my land for 26 years. My property was annexed into the HOA without my consent through a loophole. A few months ago, without warning, my tractor, my father's tractor, was seized by this HOA. I paused. No citation, no vote, no notice, just gone. I turned and looked directly at Alara, sitting stiffly with her sweaty lawyer. You tried to silence me. You tried to scare me. You tried to humiliate my family over a piece of machinery that never broke a single law. I turned back to the council. I'm not here tonight asking for revenge. I'm asking for justice, for transparency, for a board that represents the people instead of ruling over them. I believe that